everybody, welcome back to my channel. We have a super exciting video today because it's my birthday. Actually, today is not my birthday. My birthday is February 8th, which is when I will hopefully be uploading this video. So this video will be premiering on my birthday. So for all intents and purposes, it's my birthday. I have 2 videos for my birthday this year. And so consider this birthday vlog part 1, and in this video we're going to be doing the birthday book tag. I don't know who originally came up with the birthday book tag. I got it from Lindsay from BFCG, so I'm going to give credit to her, although I don't believe that she originally came up with it. I don't know who came up with it. So anyway, there are 7 prompts, and let's just jump right in. The first prompt is birthday cake, a book with a plot that seems cliche, but you adore it anyway. For that, I think that when I think of cliche, I think overdone. And I think that gender bends can be a little overdone sometimes because we do them a lot, especially when it comes to like classic fairy tales. There are a lot of gender bends, or gender reversals. And some of them can be really good, and some of them can be like, not so great. But I really enjoy K.M. Shea's King Arthur and Her Knights series, and it is not Christian fiction, it's actually clean fiction, which I feel justified having this on here because I always tell you guys that I do read some clean fiction, but then I never talk about it because really the majority of what I read is Christian fiction. But I do read some clean fiction every once in a while, and I think this is like the first time I'm actually, other than like classic novels, this is the first time I'm actually talking about a clean fiction book on here. So anyway, K.M. Shea is an independent author. She's got some really interesting clean fantasy series, and y'all, clean fantasy, let's be honest, that's pretty rare, and so I really appreciate her as an author. But this was the first series that I read from her, and it is a King Arthur series that is a gender bend, and also a time travel series. And so basically in this series, there are 7 books in the series, but the way she does it is that book 1 through 3 make up one volume, and then book 4 through 6 make up a volume, and then book 7, which is the final book, makes up its own volume because it's pretty much full length, whereas the other ones are kind of novella length, so like 3 combined make up a large novel. So it's really kind of like, it's 7 books, but it's kind of like reading 3 full-length novels, really. Anyway, so in this series, the original Arthur, who is supposed to be king, decides he wants to be a sheep farmer, so he runs off, and so Merlin, he puts this spell on the sword and the stone so that whoever touches it throughout time who is worthy to be king will be transported back in time to this certain day. And so then we have a girl named Brit in the 21st century who has just graduated from college and is taking a trip with her friends through England, and they stop at the Sword of the Stone, and they're like, oh, let's do, a photo op, grab the sword, and so she grabs the sword and she is transported back in time and dropped at Merlin's feet. And things just kind of take off from there. It's a really funny series. It's really cute. Obviously, Merlin is like, why was this girl just dropped at my feet? I don't understand what's happening. And she's like, where am I? But I just think it's really, really well done. I feel like K.M. Shea handles the legends really, really well, especially since King Arthur legends can be kind of contradictory sometimes. And some legends say one thing while other legends say another thing. And K.M. Shea kind of uses this gender bend storyline because obviously Merlin and their kind of inner circle of characters is working to keep Brit's identity a secret. They're masquerading her as a boy, as Arthur. And so K.M. Shea uses this storyline of them protecting her gender and to kind of bring some of the contradictory legends together and to make sense, which I thought was really interesting. I also thought it was really interesting how Brit, being from the future, she knows all the King Arthur legends, she learned them growing up, and they kind of inform her actions in the past. For example, when she meets Lancelot, she instantly doesn't like him because of the legend of Lancelot falling in love with King Arthur's wife. And so she's like, oh, Lancelot, I hate Lancelot. And Lancelot's like, why does this guy not like me? And so it can be really interesting. And also, obviously in these books, she doesn't actually marry Guinevere because this is not that kind of book. As a Christian, I prefer straight books, and I promise you this is a straight book. You know, it deals with that as well. But yeah, I think it's a really well done gender bend book. Number 2, the prompt is party guest, your most anticipated book release this year. So I don't really think I have a most anticipated book release, but for this prompt, I put No Stone Unturned by Janelle Hovde. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that. But this one I put for this prompt because not only does the plot look really interesting to me, I've also never read this author before, so it's kind of the anticipation of a new author combined with the anticipation of an interesting looking plot. So since it's kind of like double anticipation in that way, that's why I put it as my most anticipated book of 2025. Number 3 is Birthday Present, a book that surprised you with how much you loved it. Definitely The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipps by Sarah Brunsvold. I don't typically read those kind of stories because Mrs. Kipp is on hospice. You know, like, it's very clear from the beginning that she is dying, and she hires a newspaper reporter to come and write her obituary so that she can approve it before she dies. And that's just not a storyline that I typically gravitate towards. I don't necessarily love the stories that I know are going to be super sad. But this one, it ended up being one of my top books the year that I read it, which was 2023, I think. I think it was my top book. Like, I think it was number 1 for me. I just absolutely loved it, and I didn't expect that I would. So, number 4 is Happy Birthday Song, a book that certainly deserved all the hype it got. The Letter Tree by Rachel Fordham. That was my top book of 2024, and it was super hyped up all over Instagram and YouTube, and that's originally why I read it. I didn't really know about it before, but I just saw it getting so much hype on social media that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to read this one. And I'm so glad I did because I absolutely loved it. It became one of my top favorite books. Number 5, Happy Music, a book with some very beautiful and truly memorable quotes. That would be Love Finds You in Annapolis, Maryland by Rosanna M. White. There are just some great quotes in this book. One specifically I loved so much that one of my close friends crocheted it onto a little sampler for me. Hold on, got it, okay. Here it is, my favorite quote from that book, and my friend crocheted it for me. Isn't it pretty? I mean, if your friend is like if your friend crochets you a book quote, you know you love that book quote. So definitely that one. Okay, number 6, Getting Older, a book that you read, can't even read my own handwriting, guys. A book that you read a long time ago, but you think you would appreciate more if you read it as a more mature reader. So for this one, I said the second and third books in the Alaskan Trilogy series by Tracy Peterson. I don't know, I might be saying the trilogy name wrong. If I am, I'll put the trilogy name up on the screen. But the first book is Under the Midnight Sun. And the third book is like The Long Winter or something like that. And then the second book is something about the Northern Lights, Under the Northern Lights, I think. I don't know. I read this series when I was in 9th grade, so about 14 years old. And the second and third book deals with some heavy, heavy themes. In the second book, the 2 main women are kidnapped, and they spend most of the book being dragged along by their captor, and some really emotional things happen. I won't say too much, but there is a pregnancy as a result of one of the things that happen with the kidnapper. So you know, there it is. And so there's a lot of pain that happens in the second book. And then in the third book, they have been rescued, but then these women are now kind of alone while their husbands are on an Arctic expedition. And the husbands get like stranded. Their boat breaks up, so they're kind of stranded in Antarctica for like a year. And their wives have no way of knowing what's going on with them, and they're worried about them. Plus, they're still dealing with the long-term effects of their captivity. And so, yeah, there was just some really, really heavy subjects in this book that I was not prepared for as a ninth grader, that I didn't expect, and that I just didn't necessarily have the emotional maturity to handle. And so while I don't plan on rereading these books because I don't really like those kind of heavy subjects, I think that I would probably be able to handle it a lot better now that I'm more mature and maybe appreciate it more now that I'm more mature than I did back then. Okay, so last prompt number 7, is Sweet Birthday Memories, a book that kept you incredibly happy during a sad or demanding period of your life. So, I don't think that I can think of a specific sad time in my life where I read a specific book that cheered me up. But if we're talking about in general, like at times in my life when I am sad, I typically tend to reread books because I find the nostalgia of reading a familiar story to be helpful in comforting me and cheering me up. So yeah, I typically reread books when I am sad or having hard times. Specifically, I think Positively Penelope by Pepper Basham is kind of one of my go-tos to reread because, I mean, it's literally in the title, Positively Penelope. Our main character, Penelope, is so positive all the time, and it works wonders to cheer you up. So yeah. So that was the birthday book tag. Thank you so much for joining me in this birthday book blog part 1, not 2, 1, and I will see you in part 2.